In this live video, I'm going to take you through the announcements just made by Apple. We have brand new M2 Mac Minis and new M2 MacBook Pros. Now, you can go watch the whole Apple event if you want to hear all the superlatives, the tremendous, the buttery smooth, all the different things they say. Or you can hang out here because I kind of don't bury the lead. You've already seen the two devices and the prices. So we're going to go through a little bit of detail. If you just want the facts, ma'am, I'm going to give you those up front, and then we're going to dive into a whole bunch more and answer any questions that you may have if you're here live. If you're watching on the replay, drop your questions down in the comments below. More than happy to help out with anything you may have. So what happened here? Well, overnight for me, or just during the day if you're in other parts of the world, Apple dropped a brand new announcement, and they announced that we would be having new M2 chips. We've got the M2 Pro and now the M2 Max. So these are new Apple silicon. So Apple have expanded upon their M1, which was their old system on a chip, and now their M2. What we've got, though, is a new Mac Mini that a lot of folks have been waiting for, and we've got two models of that, one with the M2 chip and one with the M2 Pro. They start at just $599. Yeah, $100 cheaper US dollars than last year, and even $100 cheaper here in Australia, under $1,000. That's pretty cool. We've also got the new MacBook Pros, which are running the M2 Pro, and the new M2 Max chip. They're starting at the same prices as they had before, $19.99 for the 14-inch, and then up to $24.99 for the 16-inch model. Now, is this a revolution? No, it's an evolution. That's what's been happening with these. And as we go through this, you'll see what that is. The main things here is that the M2 provides more memory, so you can have up to 24 gigabytes with the M2 or up to 32 gigabytes of RAM. Has things like ProRes acceleration, which is going to be great for video editing and folks doing sort of high processing power stuff. They talked about gaming. I don't know if anyone's going to be rushing out to start gaming on their Mac Mini or MacBook Pro. They're available from the 24th of January, and if you're in the market for a brand new Mac, these are what you'll probably buy. It really is as simple as that. I've been recommending the M1 Max. In fact, I'm using the M1 Mac Mini right now, the absolute base model, and I also have the 14-inch 2020 MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip in it, which does everything I need. So for me, someone already using M1, is this something I'm going to rush out and go for? Probably not, but if you're on an old Intel-based device, then it's probably something that you will consider. And if you're going to upgrade anyway, you might as well go to M2. So that if you came here just to say, Johns, what's going on around here? That's what's going on. And yeah, I'm not even supposed to be here today. It's my day off, and that's how much I wanted to talk about this. I'm like, I'll jump on and just give a quick update. So let's go through the details, shall we? And again, if you do have any questions and you're here live, you can throw those in the live chat. If you have any questions and you're on the replay, you can just throw them in the comments. I'm always down in the comments digging around down there. So here is the new Apple family. We've got the Mini, we've got the Chungus Mini, which is the Mac Studio. You've got all of your MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros, and of course the iMac there as well. Missing from this is the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which I kind of like. So when they showed this, I'm like, yes, they're finally getting rid of that old MacBook Pro 13-inch, because you might have known that that was the first M2 came into the MacBook Air, and that old MacBook Pro 13-inch model, which was probably just they had some old chassis lying around and they needed to cram the M2 in something. So it's good to see that the lineup is looking fresh there. Let's talk a little bit about the M2 chip. As I mentioned before, it is just all those numbers there just say slightly faster. And if I had to use two words to describe all of the M2 announcements and the new chips and the new computers, it is slightly better. So no revolution in terms of the ports, in terms of colors, in terms of any design aspects. It is just all slightly faster and slightly better specs. So you can see all the numbers there. Hit the pause button if you want to read all of those, but that's directly from Apple. And to me, the most important thing there is that you've got up to the 24 gigabytes of RAM, because remember, with these, they're system on a chip. So when you go and get one, you can not user upgradable at all. You cannot upgrade anything. So that's probably something to keep in mind when you're first buying something like this. If you're like me and you just get the base model that's only got 8 gigabytes of system memory, you're stuck with that forever. Now, that being said, that's more than enough for a lot of folks, especially if you're a GarageBand creator, if you're using Logic, if you're doing some basic video editing, you're not going to need any of this. And the good news, I say, whenever Apple release a new product like this, is that the M1s are still amazing. And what you're going to find is that now, especially because that new Mac Mini M2 is $100 cheaper than what the Mac Mini M1 was before, those Mac Mini M1s that are refurbished and secondhand are going to go even cheaper. You're going to be picking those up for $400 and $500. So to get yourself into the Mac Silicon, the M1 is going to be cheaper than ever. Yes, and as Coldacre says here, the 24 to 32 RAM is going to cost a fortune. We will be pricing some of these, so hold that thought, because we will be pricing these as we go through. There's the M2 Pro. That was the other chip that they announced here. So if the M2 is slightly better than the M1, the M2 Pro is slightly better than the M2. And as you can see there, very similar sort of things. It's just got the percentages faster, but this one has up to 32 gigabytes of RAM, more cores, more goodness, and the high performance media engine with the ProRes. So yeah, can get the M2 or the M2 Pro on your Mac Mini. There it is, running Logic in all of its glory. So you can run all the plugins, all the spatial audio, all the Dolby Atmos that you would desire. You can do all of that as well. This is the little buttons that I like to see. These are the ones that give you just the facts. So if you want the information, here's where you hit pause, because this is all the information you need. So what's new in these ones? You've got the Wi-Fi 6E, which is the latest version of your Wi-Fi chip. That just means if you've got Wi-Fi 6E compatible routers and access points, your Wi-Fi is going to be a bit faster. 10 gigabit Ethernet option. So that's telling me that that's only in perhaps the Pro model. We'll explore that a little bit later in the show. And yeah, macOS Ventura up to 32 gigabytes, as we know, with the Pro, up to 8 terabytes of storage, which would cost you your firstborn child, but is something to consider. And as you can see there, the actual body, that looks exactly the same. If anyone thinks that the thumbnail I put on this video is clickbait, I could be holding the new M1 or the new M2, even though I'm holding my old M1. So that's all of the details that you need to know about the Mac Mini. The final detail is, as I mentioned before, it starts at $100 cheaper at $599, which puts it under $1,000 and £1,000 and €1,000, and I think even 1,000 Canadian. Canadians can check on that for me, but it basically makes it a sub $1,000 everywhere in the world computer that you can just hook up to your gear and go. And to someone like me, this means that as my children and my family and anyone I recommend to, it's making it actually feasible. For the longest time, I would not recommend this to my parents or my children or my wife or my friends, because Macs were just different and they were way more expensive. Now, it's kind of come to that point. The crunch point is, I think, around that $600 US, which it now is at, which is kind of ridiculous for what you get. There's the M2 Max. Now, this chip is only in the MacBook Pro, so not in the Mac Mini, and that's probably down to cooling, I suppose. Haven't really dug into the details of that one, but you can see here, everything just percentages and more trillions and billions of things, and up to 96 gigabytes of memory. And what we're going to do, we are going to max out. We're going to do a 96 gigabyte, 8 terabyte M2 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch. I reckon we can get over $10,000. Should we give it a try? We'll do that. We'll do that in a moment. So the next thing here, here's all the details. This is your spec sheet for the MacBook Pro. So hit your pause buttons again now if you want to see all the things, but same stuff basically. The only real difference here is you have that M2 Max option, which gives you that extra ultra high performance. Obviously, you got things like the Thunderbolt port and the SDHC. So you got an SD card reader still in this thing. You still have HDMI, which I find super handy. You got up to that 96 gigabytes and up to 8 terabytes on that M2 Max, which is kind of ridiculous. And you can use up to 8K displays via HDMI, which is getting pretty amazing. And there's your prices. It is at $19.99 and $24.99. So they haven't reduced, but at the same time, they haven't increased the prices. And this is pretty surprising. I was hoping that when we saw some new Macs, because honestly, most of us didn't think we were going to see this till February or March, but we're seeing it here in January. I was hoping that they wouldn't go through the roof, but with the cost of different parts, with supply chain issues, with supply issues, and with the challenges in China, say that 10 times fast, challenges in China, I did honestly think that we would be getting more expensive, especially for things like the MacBook Pro. But seems that they're keeping the price the same and going ultra competitive there. So the M2, the M2 Pro, and the M2 Max, the brand new stuff from Apple. And that is it. So there you go. In 10 minutes, I've given you all the information, but without all the words, without all the shininess, without all the marketing speak. I've given you everything. And unlike them where they get to the end and then they tell you the price and the date, I told you that up front. So $599 for the Mac Mini and from $19.99 for the MacBook Pro. And those are available to order now. And you can actually get them shipped to you from the 24th of January. So it's just around the corner. We're here on the 18th of January, so it's about a week away. I would suggest if you do want one, not that I'm someone to say go and do things immediately and do them quickly, but you probably want to do things sooner rather than later, only because what you tend to find is as people start ordering these, they do become scarcer and the exact model you want may not be available if you do dilly-dally and wait around. So jump in there, take a bit of a look, but I think a lot of people will be grabbing the Mac Mini M2. A lot of people have probably been on the fence for a long time. And I know this for a fact because people email me and people contact me every day and every week saying, I'm looking for a new computer. I've got an old Intel Mac. I'm waiting to work out what I upgrade to. Is the M1 Mac Mini the way to go? And I've been saying yes. But now that there's the M2 Mac Mini and it's slightly cheaper, the answer is double yes, I suppose. So we'll dive over and start playing around. This is always my favorite part when we have these. Is I get to come in here and I get to do a few little tests and see if I was going to buy something, what would it cost me and how would it go. Before we do that though, let's say hello to some folks. Let's say some folks who are here live. Princess LDG says the M1 is going to become cheaper. Yes, it will. Well, it's not even available now. That's the other thing. So if you come in here, we'll do this as we go. If you come in here to the Mac, you'll notice if you go to the Mac Mini, it's just replaced. So they've not left the original one. They've not left the M1 there. It is just the M2. And if you go to the comparison, so if you come down, got to find the compare. It's so much easier to compare iPhones and iPads. I can't find it. But when I went to the comparator, when I was looking to order, it might be in the order now section. When I went there, they don't even have the M1s anymore. So you can't do that. Gary Hub says, what advantages does a Mac have over, say, a train, which I could also afford? Touche. I love it. Just when we thought we were going to take things a little bit too seriously, we have Gary here to help us all. Very good. Very good stuff. Ideal world, I'd have a M2 Mini with 16 gig of memory and 4 terabytes of storage. I think that's what I will probably get, Tom, but in about a year. Because there's actually nothing wrong with my current Mac Mini, and it's going to be hard to go with. Mark Bro has a fairly nice Mac Mini M1, 16 gig and 1 terabyte. And look, for someone like Mark, I would not recommend upgrading at all. I would say no dice. Do not upgrade because you're not going to get enough benefit from this. There's probably nothing. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I bet you whatever you throw at your Mini M1 with 16 gig and 1 terabyte, it just does. Whether it's in GarageBand or Logic, or even if you're doing video editing in Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve, I bet it just does it. Yeah, I think it will. New Mac Mini with 4 Thunderbolt would be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice. And that's, I guess, in terms of the disappointment with this stuff, is that people were kind of hoping that we'd get the Pro version of the Mac Mini. So the old Intel Mac Mini that you used to be able to buy, that you now, I don't think you can. I don't think it's even there anymore. It used to have a lot more ports. So if you see here, we've got 2 Thunderbolt ports and 2 USB ports and the HDMI, gigabit Ethernet and headphone jack. That's what's on the Mini M1. And there's no changes to any of those specs. So that's a little disappointing that we don't have the one that's all sort of souped up with a lot more ports and a lot more connectivity. You're still going to be living the dongle life or the dock life to be able to have all the ports that you need. So if I was going to pick on something, it would be that they haven't actually changed it. They haven't actually changed anything there. It's all about silence and speed, in my opinion. We'll have to wait and see if they are quiet. Yeah, so for those that have actually already owned the Mac Mini M1, mine are, I have not heard the fan come on my Mac Mini M1 ever. Now, I don't crunch it. I don't throw thousands of Logic plugins at it. It just sits over there. But for a studio PC, that's why I think these things are perfect, because I have not heard from it and it doesn't catch on fire. Like, I've got an audio interface sitting on top of it. I've got a bunch of stuff around it. If I touch it, it's slightly warm. But never have I touched it and gone, ow. And I know a lot of folks that had older Macs and older Intel Macs, they say, wow, you don't need a space heater when you're running your Mac. You can just use your Mac Mini. It's available on Sweetwater and Amazon. The M1, yeah. And that's the other thing. And if I was a better YouTuber, I would have told you this earlier. But you can actually go, if you go over to studiolivetoday.com/gear. In fact, let's do that over here. I see. You can tell how often I use Safari. I don't even have it here. Studiolivetoday.com/gear. That's my gear guide. And if you went in here, say to Amazon, say you're in the US and you go to the Amazon there, you can actually come in here and just search out for things. So let's just go Mac Mini M1 and search something out here and see what we got. I'll see it's taking me to Australia. So this is the problem. See, Safari's too smart. When I go to Google, I just say I'm in America, and it's like, fine, you're in America. But yeah, you can even see here that the 16 gigabyte Mac Mini with 512 gigabyte SSD, late 2020, that's a lot cheaper than what it would be if you were buying it new just a couple of days ago. So you can get spec'd up models that people are selling, either refurbished or even brands sort of new in box that are still sitting there, and you're going to be paying less. So good suggestion there from Princess LDG if you do want to buy something. And you also, am I allowed to say this? I'd get paid a commission if you do that. Let's just put it that way. That's what I have to say if I do that. So if you use the gear guide and you buy some gear, or if you buy a new computer, they will break off a small chunk and send it to me. Great question here from Fat Panda Cat. Why didn't they update the Mac Studio? This is what a lot of people are asking as well. So it's strange because if you're not familiar, the Mac Studio is what I like to call the Chungus Mac. So if we come over here and we look at this one, so the MacBook Pro and the Mac Mini have been updated. The Mac Studio is like a Mac Mini, but much taller. And if you go and look at the specs of this one, these still have the M1 Max and the M1 Ultra. So I guess because they don't have the M1 Ultra, I would speculate that the next update, maybe in March or April, when we usually have iPads and things, maybe we will see that the M2 Max and M2 Ultra, because we don't have that Ultra chip yet, will be announced, and then these will be updated. So I think the answer to that one for you, Fat Panda Cat, is that I think until they've got the M2 Ultra ready to go, they didn't want to just update the Max version and not the Ultra version. So I think we'll be seeing that sooner rather than later. But it does also beg the question, is this the end of the Mac Pro? Because we've got all this power in the Mac Mini and now the Mac Studio. People have been waiting with bated breath to hear about the Mac Pro. And when people heard, hey, there's a Mac announcement in January 2022, I bet a lot of folks were thinking Mac Pro. But no, it is the MacBook Pros and it is the Mac Minis as well. So yes, yeah, shuffling files. That's the problem with your smaller Mac. So if you go that $599 one, 256 gigabyte SSD is not a lot of storage for a lot of folks, especially if you're doing audio and especially if you're doing video. Yeah, no, that's the problem. Like I placed my coffee cup on top of my Mac Mini expecting it to stay warm and no does. Thank you, Thomas. Yes, you can go to the gear guide if you want to check that one out. Yeah, this is the thing. You need or want a Mac? It's a good question. Needs versus wants is interesting. The Mac Mini with M2 Pro comes with 4 Thunderbolt ports. Does it? Okay. Well, this is what we're going to do now because we're actually going. This is a good segue. I didn't realize that you had the extra Thunderbolt. I guess that makes sense because you're probably connecting more stuff. So let's go over and let's start pricing some of these suckers out, shall we? So we'll go to the Mac Mini first of all, and we'll play around with this. So if we go order now. We're going to go, we know what we want, but we're going to order now. So here are our options. We've got the M2, the 8-core CPU, 10-core GPU. This is your base model. This is your $599 sucker right here. That's the one that they've put on the poster. This is the one that you'd probably want to go for at least with the 512 gig of storage for an extra $200. And it's kind of where the price starts jumping, isn't it, when you start adding to the storage and the RAM. Or you can go for the new M2 Pro, which is this one here. So firstly, let's spec out what I would buy right now. If I was buying one, if I didn't have my M1 Mac Mini and I was about to buy one, look at that, ships by January 23. So it did say available January 24th, but it says shipped by January 23. That's interesting. So let's select this one and we will jump on in to our customization. So what I would go with here in terms of memory is I'd probably go the 16. You could go up to 24 and we will max it out before, but given that I'm using 8 gigabytes right now and everything works, Logic works fine, GarageBand works fine, I've never really hit the wall with that 8 gigabytes of unified memory, which seems a little bit weird. So we'll go with 16 for now. I would go with probably 2 terabytes of storage, so to max out the storage there, or you could, at a pinch, go with 1. Let's just say we're going to try and budget it up a little bit more. We'll go with 1. That's pretty good. That's $11.99. That's a pretty powerful little beast. So $11.99, that's going to be around 1,700 or 1,800 Australian or Canadian, and yeah, probably also around 11.99 pounds or euro, depending on various conversion rates. But that's a little beast. That's going to be cool. So let's do the fun stuff now. Let's max out. Let's pretend money is no object, because in 2023, of course, money is no object for any of us, is it? All right, and we're going to go with the Mac M2 Pro. So let's select on this one, also available by January 23. This is pretty good. They've obviously got a heck of a lot of stock, which is interesting. Yeah, all right, so let's come down here. Let's customize this one. So we've got the M2 Pro, so the 10-core, 16-core, or the 12-core, 19-core. You know what I'm going to do. We're going to upgrade it because we're giving it everything. We're going to go, so here's interesting. You've only got the 16 gig or a 32 gig option. So we're at $15.99 at the moment. We'll throw the 32 in. We're up to $19.99, but we've only got the 512 gigabytes of storage. You'd want to go at least to 2 terabytes with a machine like this. You're up to $25.99. What if we go to 8 terabytes? $43.99. You can also add, so that's interesting. So if you've got like servers, or you've got NASs that use 10 gigabit Ethernet, which is basically the speed of your network, your LAN, your local area network, you might want to go to the 10 gigabit Ethernet. If you were this serious, if you were spending $4,500 on a Mac Mini, you'd go 10 gigabyte Ethernet. Let's throw Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro on there. And we can almost get it to 5K, almost $4,998 US. So that's going to sit around 7 or 8 grand if you're here in Australia, which I probably wouldn't go for. Now, Mark was saying, so let's have a look at what's in the box. There's the Mac Mini and its cable. But we did want to look at, because Mark was saying that they have updated the chassis of this one. Let's just see if it's here in the gallery. If we go through here, if we can take a look at the back and the front, because this will show us the ports. You are spot on. Look at that. Mark with the details. Mark with the info that I don't have. So they've kind of just shimmied all the ports across, and they've given you 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports there, 2 USB-A ports, your headphone jack, your HDMI. So they've kind of squished everything up a little bit to get in those additional 2 Thunderbolt ports. And that would be mostly so that you can hook up like 8K and 6K and 4K displays, as well as hooking up all your high-speed storage and maybe a Thunderbolt audio interface and whatever else you want to use. Because if you're a pro, you'd be wanting a pro setup. So again, that's if you want to go for the big one. But we haven't finished there. Yeah, dream on. I agree. Dream on with that one. And ouch. Ouch indeed. Robert says, now I can have even more that I don't really need. Absolutely. Absolutely right. Yeah, a lot cheaper getting a small internal SSD than attaching a bigger external one. Yeah, so it depends. It depends. Like I've got a 1 terabyte SSD attached via Thunderbolt 4, which is pretty quick on my Mac Mini M1, but it is less convenient than just having everything internally. The cost is probably about 6 of one, half an hour the other, but you can definitely, you've at least got options. So if you don't go, this is why I say, if you've got the choice, so if you're coming in here to customize your Mac, if you've got the choice between your storage or your memory, always go memory, because storage can be added on. Like Thunderbolt 4 storage SSD is almost as quick as the SSD internally within a Mac. If you go less memory and you hit a memory wall, there is literally nothing you can do apart from kiss goodbye your old one and buy a new one. So that's my bit of advice there, is always take a look at the memory over and above the storage. All right. Should we go into real dream territory and take a look at pricing out a new MacBook Pro? So we'll do the same thing again. We'll go with what would I buy right now if say I'm creating music in Logic and I'm doing a little light editing in Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve, or if you're me and you're a weirdo, LumaFusion. So we'll come in here. I wouldn't recommend that. So the M2 chip on the MacBook Pro 13-inch. This is the older model. This is the model that has the touch bar and it has the notch, and it's on its last legs. So they're still selling it. I thought they would stop selling it, but it's kind of the forgotten stepsister of the range, or stepbrother. I don't know why it has to be a sister. Let's order us a new MacBook Pro though. So for me, and this will come down to personal preference, but I like the 14-inch. I like the form factor of the 14-inch. And if you want a bigger laptop, that's great. But the 14-inch is super portable. This is mine here. I'll just come back to the main screen so you can see. So this is my MacBook Pro, and for me, the keyboard's still a nice size. It's got the giant trackpad there, 14-inch screen on a laptop, and 14-inch form factor and size for throwing in your backpack. I've always found a better size. I've always had 14 or 15-inch laptops. So the one time I bought like a 16 or a 17-inch laptop, like a desktop replacement style, it was just too big, and that's coming from a big bloke with big chungus fingers. So I would actually prefer the 14-inch over the 16-inch, but you do you. If you want all the big and the glory, you can go for it. So for our budget, for our sensible model, we're going to start with the 14-inch. And we're going to come on down here. Now, they come in all the colors of either space gray or silver. I have the silver stuff in my studio, so we'll go with that. You've got the M2 Pro, the two different models of M2 Pro and the M2 Max. If you get the M2 Pro, again, going from this to this, spending that additional amount, on the surface, it doesn't look like it's going to be worth it. The only kind of benefit, I guess, is you get the 96 watt USB-C power adapter instead of the 67 watt. Everything else is almost the same. So I don't think I'd bother for the case of 2 extra cores on the CPU and 3 extra cores on the GPU. For 500 kilams, I would probably go with the lesser. So let's select this one and take a look at the rest of our specs, shall we? And this is what I would buy if money was an object, which it is. So let's come down here and see what we want. So we've gone with that one. We can change it up and pay the extra there if you wanted the different chips. So we'll do that afterwards. 16 gigabytes of unified memory. You can get 32 gigabytes. You can't get the 64 because remember, we're on the Pro, not the Max. So you would need to go to the Max to get the 64 or the 96. I personally, I would think that 16 gigabytes is going to be enough for almost everyone that would be using this. So again, we're going a cost-effective one. Let's go 16 there. I do think you'd probably want to go up to 2 terabytes of storage rather than 1. So spending a little bit extra there, which I kind of contradicted the last point I made, didn't I? Saying, oh no, you don't go less memory and more storage. So in fact, let's keep it cheaper. Let's say we're going 1 terabyte storage, 16 gig and 1 terabyte of storage. And again, you can add the power adapter. Oh, there you go. So you don't even need to get the other model. I would just throw that on there. A little bit of extra, for the sake of $20, I'd get the 96 watt power adapter. It's just going to make sure that you charge up quicker and you've always got a full charge. So let's just go with that. We won't add anything there at this point. And you're at $22.19. So $21.99, but I added that extra power adapter. So $2,200, which is pretty good because this is going to be a laptop that'll last you. Like I have zero inclination to change from what I've got here. The M2 coming out, I've already got the M1 MacBook Pro and it flies along. It never hasn't done anything that I don't want it to do. So I'm not lining up for this. But if I was, that's what, $2,200, that's about a $3,700 laptop. That is going to, as they always like to say, it's going to be as fast, if not faster, than pretty much any Windows laptop, any like high-speed laptop. Now, if you're a gamer and you want a gaming laptop, of course, you're not going to buy yourself a MacBook Pro. But if you're a professional and you're creating music or video or doing anything in the creative field, I think this is pretty darn cool. So, and remember, you can spec it down, but that's actually not too bad. Considering that it starts at $11.99, all we've really added there is the additional storage for $200 and the power adapter to take it up. So that's probably what I'd do. If you did want to go, again, if you wanted to super future-proof yourself, you'd throw the 32 gig in there and then you're ready to go. You're good to go there. All right, one more thing to do here. If you do have any final questions, by the way, please throw them here in the chat. The Mix Club says, I have a 256 gig Mac Mini M1, have like 43 gigabyte left. We'll do a clean soon and be around 75 or 100. I've worked on the 250 drive, always. Yeah, it does make you have to be more diligent, doesn't it? Yeah. Hello, Phil. Yes, feel free to catch the replay if you're missing that. It does get harder to get free space, of course. All right, let's go with the dream, shall we? Let's see how much we can spend here. So we're going to go the new MacBook Pro. We are this time going to order the 16-inch, and we are going to go maximum specs. How much can we spend on a new MacBook? And remember, very few people are actually buying this particular model because you just don't need it. But let's just say you won the lottery tomorrow and you want to do it. So we'll come in here, we'll do the starting at $34.99. We'll use this as our starting point, and we'll come in here. This time we are going to go with 96 gigabytes of memory. Anyone remember the old PC days, the old DOS days, where like my first DOS PC had 1 megabyte of memory, and when I upgraded it to 4 megabytes, I was like, wow, 4 megabytes. This has got, hang on, how many megabytes in a gigabyte? 1,000. Yeah, many multitudes of times more than that. Anyway, we're going to go with the 8 terabytes of SSD because, of course, we are. Because why not? I won't install the software. Yeah, let's do it anyway. Let's just say we want a fresh copy of Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro. There you go. So you don't actually have that many options. And we haven't got it up as much as I thought we could. So we're only spending $7,000, $6,998.98. So because we've just got all the stuff already in here, the 140 watt USB power adapter, you've got your 3 Thunderbolt ports, your HDMI, you've got your 16-inch liquid retina XDR display, you've got the M2 Max with the 38 core GPU. I mean, come on now with the 38 cores. What are they doing? Imagine if you were the 38th core. The other 37 cores are like crunching numbers, and you're just sitting there going, I haven't got to do anything for like a year because I'm the 38th core. Yeah, good times. So there you go. So only 6,998. So that would mean that for me in Australia, let's go to apple.com.au because yeah, I know that. Oops, I've entered it wrongly, and now I'm back on my page. Let's try that again one more time with feeling. I think we actually just go apple.com, and it gives us the little drop down at the top. No, we're gonna have to go /au. Let's say Apple. Can we buy something, or is it going to keep us there? It's going to keep us in the US. Is it? No, there it is. All right, Australians. Let's price this up because I reckon we can get over 10 grand. 10 grand in Aussie dollar bucks. Let's see what we can do. So we're going to go the 16-inch. We are going to go. I don't know if Apple like it when I do this, but I like it. It's fun. Yay! We got there, $10,099. But the good point is, the good thing about this is that the Mac Mini, the absolute base metal Mac Mini, which is very good. And look, uni students can even save more. But if you look at this one, from $999, and that's pretty eventful. That's a pretty big deal because it's the first time that a Mac has been sold, a new Mac has been sold under $1,000 in Australia. I'm going to say ever, because I'm pretty sure that I'm correct in saying that there has never been a sub $1,000 Mac in Australian dollars in Australia ever, which in 2023 is pretty ridiculous. Because if you remember back to the old days, the before time, the long ago, when I was pricing up Macs that had the equivalent specs of the PCs that I was using back in the day, they were 3 and 4 times more. So they were like $3,000 for the $1,000 Asus or Acer laptop that I was actually buying. So there you go. Yeah, so if you have the big spender, if you can do that, you can go with it. And yeah, look, I've got to give credit where it's due. It's easy to criticize Apple on the things that they don't do and their money grabbing and their $1 trillion company and blah, 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 blah. But I honestly think, and look, it was a business decision. Someone in the finance department ticked it and approved it because they are going to sell a boatload of these at $599 and $999. They will make up in volume what they would have made in the extra $100 on these machines. And just getting them down under that price point is pretty amazing. And we're not far from the day where there'll be like a sub $500 Mac in the US, which would be pretty amazing. And it's going to mean that, yeah, people are going to be out there buying them. And it's a good deal. So that is what we've got here. If you're just joining us, or if you want to catch the rest of it, the first 3 minutes was just the facts, man. We'll go into that again here now. So Apple have announced two new machines, MacBook Pro 14 and 16 inch and the Mac Mini M2, available in the M2 and the M2 Pro models for the Mac Mini, starting at $599 US, going up to about $2,000 if you're kidding it out, which we've just done here on the show. And then they've got the MacBook Pro, which is starting at $1999 for the 14 inch or $24.99 for the 16 inch. You can spec that sucker out and go up to about $6,000 or $7,000, but the base models are going to be pretty darn amazing with those things. So they're all available to order now. They'll be available from the 24th of January if you want to go out and grab one. And don't forget, I think the thing I'm most happy about here is that for anyone that has been in the market, that has been considering getting a Mac, now's your time, because all the other ones, all the older ones, are going to be a lot cheaper. You're going to be able to go to other places. So if you go to my gear guide again, studiolivetoday.com/gear, and jump in here. So let's just go down here on my desktop setup. Where's my Mac Mini M1? Let's just go to the link. Say I'm in the UK, and let's just go to the UK Amazon page, and it'll search out the Mac Mini M1, and it's not currently available. Well, that was a bit of a disappointment. But if we just go Mac Mini M1, let's just click through here and see if we can find. No, we don't have a price on there at the moment. So they're probably scrambling because everything's just changed. But go and have a look around, because I'm betting that you'll find some good deals. We'll just jump into the US here. I'm betting there'll be some good deals. Currently unavailable. Good job, Johns. But there'll be some good deals on some refurbished. You can even buy them directly through Apple or through other retailers as well. We'll finish up with just a final few questions, and then we will all be done. Thank you for Thomas for putting the link there. And please do hit the thumbs up button. If you've enjoyed this, if you've rather spend half an hour chatting with Johns about this than watching all of the Apple videos about it, then give us a thumbs up, and feel free to share it. If you've got other friends and family that are thinking about this, or they need to have the information, send them this and say, look, you don't have to watch Old Man Johns for half an hour, but watch the first 5 minutes and you'll know exactly what's going on. Sean says, what would you recommend as a monitor for the Mini? Great question. Princess LDG has a 32-inch HP monitor, Sean. I've got a couple. So I've got a 1080p Asus that I use over here. It's a very old monitor, but it does the job. So I've got two monitors, and I've actually got the Apple Studio display, which is great, but is overpriced for what most people need. So I would go with just a nice 4K monitor. Dell makes some great ones. Asus, Acer, there's I think Lenovo. So just get yourself a 4K monitor. Get something with a good refresh rate, so that'll be good for your Mac Mini. So go with a lower refresh, even though you're not gaming on it. You don't want laggy displays. You want a nice refresh rate. So I would aim for something in the 4K with like a 2 to 5 millisecond. Let's just do a quick shop here. We'll go to Amazon, since we're over here on Amazon.com. So if you go via my gear guide, let's just go, say, a 27 inch. That's probably a 27 inch monitor, 4K. And we'll just see sort of what's available and the sort of thing. So over here, Samsung is another one that I forgot. So that's a fairly nice looking Samsung with USB-C. If you get one with USB-C, it means that you don't have to use HDMI. You can use USB-C, or you can use Thunderbolt even. LG makes some nice ones. Philips makes some nice ones. So yeah, anything around that mark, I'd go with. I wouldn't go with the cheaper, lower end ones. So go with something from like a brand name. There's the Dell Ultra Sharp. Those things are amazing. So if you want to go a little bit more, spend about $500. The Dell Ultra Sharp 4K monitors are really good. But you really can't go that far wrong with brand name and a 4K monitor. You're going to get yourself a nice display. There you go. And Mark uses a 27-inch LG. That looks great. Mix Club's gone a little bit further. He's got the 52-inch monitors. Yeah. There you go. So 20. The reason I say 27 is that's kind of the size of the old iMacs monitors. So 24 is a little bit small. So I've got a 27 here and I've got a 24 over there. The 27 is definitely a lot better for displays of a lot of things. That is going to do it for this one. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. I don't know, still 40 minutes, but relatively short and sweet. If you do have follow-up questions, or you've got more information, or your own experience, or things that I've missed, or things that I got wrong, feel free to comment. That's what the comment section down there is for. I'll be hanging out there all day as well. Don't forget to check out all the other videos, or my tutorials, or my music videos right here on Studio Live Today. Just jump over to studiolivetoday.com. On your way out, if you could hit the thumbs up button, that helps tell the YouTube robots to go and tell all the other YouTube robots that this was a worthwhile video and had some good information. I'm off to drink some coffee and enjoy the rest of my day off. But as we say at the end of every show, I wanted to say one final thing, and that is that I would like you to be kind to yourself this week. I'd like you to be kind to others this week. And don't forget to keep creating, folks. I'll see you next time here on Studio Live today. Bye for now.